You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and today we're going to dive into a interesting spin on the retail media budget, the retail media networks. A lot of questions out there around where the money is going, how it's being spent, different opportunities that are out there. We know the Amazon, the Walmart really working well. You get outside of that, things start to break down. And so a lot of questions around alternatives or strategy or experts in the area. And so have a friend, Jack Shannon, we brought on from Recess. And I think it's going to be a fun conversation as a whole, unique take on what they're doing, and just come highly recommended from a bunch of brands of the network. But I'll let Jack explain like what you're doing and all. But Jack, you want to jump in, a brief intro on yourself and Recess and all that fun stuff, and then we can kind of jump into the conversation. Sound good?
Sounds great, Aaron. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here. And I'm Jack Shannon. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders over at Recess. We are a experiential performance marketing platform that works with large CPG brands and connects them to communities and places and spaces, fitness studios like F45 and Orange Theory, the parent pickup line at K through 8 schools, college campuses on Move-In Day. So all these really impactful moments of culture and places and spaces that are people are discovering brands and making it really simple and easy for large brands to deploy marketing campaigns that are ultimately going to help them drive their goals and objectives. Whether that's increasing sales at a particular retailer, or supporting a product launch, winning a particular moment or key time frame at a retailer, and more broadly, just acquiring new households, winning back market share. It's been a challenging couple of years with tariffs, with private label. So big CPGs are margins are under assault from a number of different areas, and so Recess is a platform and a tool to help win back some of that, or capture new customers and new folks and bring them into a brand's ecosystem.
Yeah, so no, that's awesome. I think that's one of the things where I got most interested when I heard from a couple different brands and just asked for the connection over to you guys. Is it sampling? And then what I'd love to hear is, what are you seeing happen in the retail media space as a whole? Because what I hear from brands all the time is, hey, if you can show me it works, I'll give you more money. But the issue is, outside of like Amazon and Walmart, it's been really hard to gauge what's working and what's not. And with 300, 400, whoever, 500 retail media networks out there, things start to break down pretty quickly. But that doesn't mean they're not asking brands for dollars as a whole. What are you seeing going on in this space?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, there's been a growth and a proliferation of retail media networks. Yeah, I forget that. I mean, the number changes monthly as to the number that are out there.
Might as well be a trillion, right? It might as well be a trillion. Yeah.
And I think, there's a lot of changes just in the media ecosystem overall with AI and everything coming into the mix. And so definitely hear that from some of our brand partners, that they're really challenging, and if you're going to be pulling over national dollars into the retail media ecosystem, beyond just what's already been there from a trade and shopper perspective, how is that performing? What is that right mix of media in there? And to answer your former question, yeah, our programs, they kind of initiated from the world of sampling. That was the platform we built. That was kind of the initial ad unit that we thought about, that if you were going to connect brands to these really valuable IRL communities and places and spaces where real people are, out there in the real world, that sampling was a great kind of initial ad unit that could be ubiquitous across many of those different types of places and locations. So in the world of like sponsorship or experiential, historically, Every partner's had a different package, a different program, a gold, silver, bronze, and it just makes it harder to kind of really build programs that are going to have the scale and the reach to have impact. And it's just a lot of manual work and a lot of effort. And so our vision was if you could build essentially like a DSP or an ad marketplace for all of these offline ad units that are very valuable and very impactful, but they don't hook up to like an easy turnkey DSP like Offsite or even digital out of home or some of those other products. So sampling was the first ad unit that we've kind of added to the marketplace, but we're adding other types of offline, quote unquote, offline media, things that still might be digital, like a social post from an account or an email blast to those audiences. So those are things that some human has to do. They have to, create it, they have to post it, or they have to send the email in that way. So there's somebody on the other end from our supply, which we call our partners. So that's could be all those different types of locations that I listed out previously. So we look at brands wanting to partner with those communities in an IRL, in an experiential way, but supporting it with omni-channel extensions like digital and social that can make it a really robust 360 package. So I think longer term, we're looking at what other types of ad units could we add from those partners that are valuable to reach those audiences. But to the question on the retail media side, I think it's an interesting time there too. A lot of brands have really invested in the bottom of the funnel, sponsored search, on-site, some of those traditional metrics. And I think you see many retailers that are now looking at how can they build more full funnel programs and campaigns, things that are going to hit both middle and top of funnel, because that's where a lot of the brand budgets lie as well. So if they want to be seen as, a true media property to compete for those brand dollars, they're looking at more holistic types of available inventory and programs that they can build out that will help brands achieve those objectives. So I think it's certainly an arms race. There's a number of RMNs are increasing. The amount that RMNs, ask for on an annual basis, like everybody wants to drive growth. So that, everybody, they're incentivized to increase that number. And as that number increases, what we're hearing is brands want new types of audiences, new types of ways to engage consumers, that, it's not enough to just put another 30% into, search year over year. They're looking for new types of ways to reach these audiences. In-store is a big component of that. And I think, what we've built at Recess is a really interesting complement and a new type of way to reach, Dollar General shoppers or Costco shoppers or any retailer, that we have within our targeting capabilities as well.
Yeah, I think brands, you get to the land of diminishing returns, when you get to anything beyond a couple major retailers and the RMNs and what's going on. And they're looking for something else, something that'll work, and something that might drive in-store traffic as well. Because still most of commerce, especially in the CPG space, or an item that you would actually sample, is still being bought in a store. And so how do you get a physical product? How do you get something that actually they can sample and try in their hand in a guaranteed fashion? The question, though, is how do you target the right audience, right? Because the sampling piece is a portion of it that's expensive, and getting it there.
Yep.
How do you get it sampled to? That's what they're always concerned about, is I want to make sure I get this in the hands of a type of person, my, demographic of shopper.
Yep.
So is that something you hear from brands as well? Are you dialing that in on, how does that work?
Yeah, I think that's everything. I think that's what's really opening up this opportunity, particularly in the RMN space, with us, because we have that ability to target, let's take gyms, for example, fitness studios. Let's pretend it's, in January, New Year, New You. A lot of brands invest in reaching active lifestyle folks, the beginning of January with resolutions and things like that. Within our platform, we can, out of all the gyms and fitness studios that have signed up to our platform that said, we want to work with brands, we want to partner with brands, it enhances our member experience when we have, an interesting new healthy snack option that we can surprise and delight our guests with. So we already have all those locations within our tool. And then we've built a targeting layer over the top of it based on specific retailer audiences. So if you're trying to if you have a new healthy product, let's say that's launching at Walmart, maybe it's somehow tied to GLP-1s or something like that. We can target and identify which of those gyms over-index on Walmart shoppers in the same way you target Walmart shoppers on the open web or with digital out of home. Same methodology here. So we would look at out of these gyms, we actually use cell phone data to do it all anonymously, but looking at these devices went to this gym. Where do they shop the other 365 days out of the year? Index that against all the locations. And now you can understand where can I find Walmart shoppers in the highest, in the highest density and the highest percentage, or pick any retailer. We have 6,000 different retailers in our platform that you can target based on. So with that capability, that now unlocks you to build retailer specific campaigns. Whereas before in experiential, maybe you'd hire an experiential agency, you do a mobile tour, it's all national, and it's all either going to a national coupon or it's just driving impressions and awareness and top of funnel. But with the ability to target on specific retailers, that also opens up measurement as well, because now you're focusing, the majority of the dollars and the attention on a single retailer. And so we also know, we see these devices are at this gym, and then we know which retailers they go to too. So you can look at it on a store by store basis, where are you driving lift and where are you driving impact?
Performance marketing. It's almost performance marketing.
It is performance marketing. It is. Experiential performance. So we think
if you can track in the closing the loop on the purchase, are they building a coupon, or you could then track what's actually happening in what store they're actually going to, and then I want to hear about that, and then I want to take the conversation into. So what I'm hearing is, these major brand dollars, and you'd mentioned these. You have the major brand dollars, you have the shopper dollars, we have RMN. Like where it would seem to me that if I can get, because you did mention as well, profitability, right, is key. Mm-hmm. People want to see performance now. If I spend X dollars, I want to see that I got X plus 2 back. And it'd be interesting to see if you're having an impact on branded dollars now moving to a more performance based metric. But anyways.
I think that those traditional, like national experiential sampling sponsorship dollars, those have mostly traded on top of funnel metrics, impressions, MMM, reach, and those types of things. So that's kind of been the KPI or the mechanism that you've looked at that traditionally. With our version of it, there's a couple of things. One, we're partnering brands directly with these properties and locations. When you're doing a afternoon coffee break at WeWork, it's the community manager that people see every day when they go into their job. That's the person who's setting up the coffee, break. And it's on behalf of, it's to the WeWork community. And people feel good about that. They're like, I'm a member of this community. I got this free thing. I get this free benefit. It makes people feel good. There's a positive association there. Same if it's at a gym. It's maybe the instructor, or the front desk person, or you're moving into your college apartment, and it's the staff that from the property management company that are helping set up on move-in day and stuff like that. So it's people people you trust, and so it's also there's no brand ambassador to hire for that. So the labor on it is already built into the partner, and we would argue it's super authentic too. So now you've brought the cost down by 1/10 of what it's cost traditionally to execute these programs. And so now you can actually, get to a place where you can measure it. And, to your question, yes, there's a couple of different ways to measure it. We always, we love to, most of the time we're trying to look at, if we're looking at a bottom of funnel metric, it's, it's sales lift. It's ultimately iROAS that we're looking to tie it back to. But, just looking at coupon redemption is tough, because not everybody ultimately is going to remember to use the coupon or use the coupon. So there's a couple of different ways, either looking at, like I mentioned, like a store lift analysis. So if we know we were at these 1,000 K-8 schools at parent pickup, or if we were at back to school at these 600 apartment complexes on 200 campuses, we know which retailer we're targeting. And in that college town, I went to Indiana, in Bloomington, there's the Walmart. So that's the Walmart if you're driving to Walmart. So looking at how do we impact sales at those stores versus a control set of stores is one way to approach it. The other way is through some of these partnerships, there's often digital amplification, like I mentioned as well. There might be social posts, there might be email blasts. So there's, and then just from the location side of it too, there's ways to identify directly like one-to-one impacted users. And, you can pass that through LiveRamp, through Snowflake. You can tie that to loyalty data for an RMN, and then you can look at how did I drive, not only short-term performance there, but how did that user's behavior then change over a 52-week period of time? How is that actually impacting LTV in a way where you can see that they tried this product and then they converted, they became, a new user and they were new to brand, and then they continued to purchase, cottage cheese for the next 52 weeks, which that was like my story with Good Culture cottage cheese. Like I didn't grow up eating cottage cheese. I thought it was gross. I tried Good Culture. I'm like, this is amazing. Like I've been missing out. It's high protein. It's delicious. We buy Good Culture cottage cheese every week now. So because I got a sample, I tried it. I was like, oh, this is actually delicious. That's me. I'm that user in that equation or scenario.
Yeah, I'm continually amazed at how e-commerce is evolving, and the omnichannel experience and in-store, including social, including sampling, including, the RMNs and paid media and everything else, from the standpoint of, like you were just mentioning, it just kind of clicked in my head. It was like, so it's not just about getting the sample in the store lift, but they do post, and even on social media, and you can loop that in, and maybe you sampled, 100,000 pieces, and you get 500 people talking about it all at roughly about the same time. You can start to curate an audience on TikTok, and TikTok shops are doing tons of content around that right now, and how that's starting to take off like early Amazon was. That's kind of the feeling that you can now, okay, I'm going to put a physical sample in somebody's hand that will generate social media content, or has a potential to generate social media content, drive in store as well as online, all powered by either shopper, brand, retail media dollars, which is primarily originally all in the digital space. That's pretty cool. Like,
yeah, I think that's using the gym analogy, that's the perfect example. You get done with your class, your instructor is like, hey, here's this awesome new healthy bar, on that collateral, on that signage that's there at your gym that day. It's got, now available at Dollar General. Go check it out, go purchase it, or Walmart or Kroger or Albertsons or wherever the brand is trying to drive, retail traffic towards. And then, they're leaving that gym maybe later that day. They see a post from their gym on Instagram or TikTok. And because a lot of these partners, like they're trying to acquire customers, they're trying to sign up people to their apartment complex. So they have these accounts, they have a marketing, motion in place. And so looking at these communities, no different than you'd look at like a social influencer. So they're creating great content. You're going to get really great, effectively UGC or organic content out of this program that you can then also put paid against and target that back to the right audiences to ultimately drive those conversions. So they'll see it in their feed. Then they might get an email from their gym, 5 days later that says, hey, here's this awesome event we did with brand XYZ. And oh, by the way, here's a DG, cash back or a Walmart cash offer, that you can convert on right now and use, the next time you're in that store. So we do always love, I know we've talked about coupons. We love when there's some incentive that's already built into a program, or if you can already tap into that, if there's already a built-in, fund that's there for that, because it's just going to reduce that friction of someone trying that product and then ultimately converting. If they can try it in the wild, they can get to experience it within one of these communities, and then they're incentivized to then go purchase that. Maybe it's a BOGO, whatever the offer is. Like you're now, daisy chaining those two experiences together. They've now tried it, they've purchased it, and the goal then obviously to retain that user long term after the fact as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, what was the backstory on kicking this off? from like the founder perspective. That's always interesting too. Was it the cottage cheese? Like what was when I kicked off like Ecom Advisory back in the day, and now it's BWG Connect, it was I needed I needed to talk to brands because I gotten burned on service providers, and I
Hmm.
wanted to get personal recommendations from brand conversations. And that was kind of the idea was maybe there's you can set up a networking group of just brands who talk and share ideas, and we can then come up with the topics and the coolest new things that are popping up, but also who is the best Amazon agency, right? What's the coolest new tech like a Recess that's helping brands
Hmm.
out? Like, and that took off. People seem to really like it. Like, what was it for you with Recess?
Yeah, myself and my co-founder, we kind of were our supply before. We were the event organizer. We organized concerts and events, and we're looking for brands. At the same time, had a network of digital publishers, so kind of understood the ad tech and the martech world as well. And I think we saw influencer marketing moving from kind of very one-to-one bespoke deals with the biggest Kim Kardashians of the world to brands using platforms and tools to work with thousands of micro influencers, or using data to target and discover the right partners to work with in the digital space. Very similar to out of home too, moving to addressable exchanges. So all these kind of like traditional legacy offline or like manual things that didn't hook up to traditional DSPs, we saw that inevitably happening in experiential as well. Experiential is a $120 billion category. It's growing 10% year over year. But it's still all largely done with like relationships and decks and spreadsheets and phone calls, and everything is so manual. And so, um, I think there's great properties out there that you can partner with and get global reach or huge reach, but there's a lot of great communities and places like our events were back in the day that just don't have a big sales team like a Live Nation or a Learfield or some of these bigger entities. And so the vision was, could we create a tool and a marketplace and a platform that could take all the modern, basically copying what happens in every other ad industry, from targeting to workflow tools to measurement and reporting, and how can we bring that to a traditionally more legacy driven space in terms of how those things operated, to ultimately grow the TAM of experiential, because we're still massive believers in the ability to reach people in person as a component of that program and have some kind of impact. I just think it's sometimes is out of whack from a return on investment perspective, because the programs are kind of only very expensive with all these flashy things and kind of high elements. And our vision was, what if you took, to your point, what if you looked at that and said, what's the performance marketing version of experiential? What would that look like? And how could you make that easier to do, to ultimately make it easier for brands to invest in that space and look at it just like any other media product, as opposed to more of a kind of everything totally bespoke, custom one-to-one.
Yeah, I think you hit it out of the park, man. I think you're right. I mean, just simplify it. Otherwise, people just wouldn't. People love the sampling aspect. The idea of sampling, the work behind it was just such a pain, and especially now with such a demand for delivering some kind of report on the performance of it.
Yeah.
So many dollars were just going straight to paid media because you can measure it, right? Strictly a performance standpoint. You step in and you
Yeah.
fix the problem that brands want and need, and you can make it simple, right? I mean, if it's not working, you just turn it off, right? It's not like a 5-year commitment. You jump in, you give it a whirl, you test and learn, you dial it in, and then it starts to take off, and you roll with it, or you don't, which is
Yeah.
it's so cool, man. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's like making it easy for people to, test it out, see how it works, get that. A lot of times other programs, they're like, it's got to be $1 million title sponsorship. And that's what is kind of being pitched. And that totally makes sense in a lot of cases. But I think, brands are looking for more performative channels ultimately at the end of the day. And so I think there's a portion of the budget allocated towards this type of marketing that makes sense ultimately for brands.
yeah, I mean, I've been picking your brain for a while. Like, any questions for me? This has been super fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm always interested to hear to your point in terms of the RMN space and what people are seeing out there overall, and kind of where the puck's heading. I think AI is another one that is always. I was out in Cannes a couple of weeks ago and seemed to be the topic of every other conversation, if not every conversation. So I think the confluence of those two, and the impact that will have on search. You look at Google, and I think they're questioning what is AI going to do to that business, and I think that'll it's a valid question to ask, is how does that translate down to RMNs too? The search certainly is the golden goose for many platforms, and how's that going to change? I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody knows, but I'm curious. Looking in the crystal ball. Your
Yeah,
perspective on
it's
it too.
interesting. I think we tackle a couple of things. One is the in-store is not going to go away, and the sampling thing that you're doing is awesome. If we go to the RMN side and the paid media and the digital side, what's going to be very interesting and having a lot of conversations around it right now is so Perplexity, that rumor they might get acquired by Apple, that should happen if I'm Apple, because right now if I talk to Siri, she asks if I want to talk to ChatGPT instead. Like
Right.
that assistant is not quite where it needs to be. On top of that, Perplexity looking to launch its own browser. And so as people get more and more used to these LLMs being a shopping assistant, um, will Amazon be as relevant? Will Walmart be as relevant? Because I don't know where they are going to route traffic, right? Like you might go to Amazon.com or Walmart.com, just out of, most of us do, just because it's so easy and what we've learned, especially on Amazon. Will your two questions. Will your LLM, your shopping assistant, will it care? I don't think it will. Um, Number two, will they build in code to have it not go to those marketplaces? And so that is going to be, and if those two things happen where it doesn't care and there's code that has it not go to an Amazon or a Walmart first, it completely upends a lot of people's current habits, including Google, where the rate at which ChatGPT is eating into Google's search volume is crazy. Now, Google's still way ahead, billions and billions of daily queries ahead. But people are picking up these LLMs faster than ever. It's, everybody thought that TikTok was, adopted really quickly. Well, these LLMs, and when it really takes off being a shopping assistant, it's going to be even faster. And so that's going to be probably the most interesting space because of that search and the amount of retail dollars and the ad dollars that are tied up in it. If the traffic's not there, and to compound it one level further is will, but so in that scenario where the LLM is doing the shopping,
Right. The agent. You have an agent doing it
the
for you.
agent is doing the shopping. Does it even care about the website?
Right.
It's just,
How do you register the impression? How do you
yeah,
capitalize on the
when
ad? Is that
you
So
can
that's
actually be faceless website instead of headless. That's what I'm calling it right now. A faceless website where the agent just literally acting as you, all he needs to do is plug into the product catalog and the pricing engine and the payment portal. It doesn't care about how pretty it looks. It doesn't care about the flow of Amazon. It does not care about any of this. It's totally faceless. So that's going to
Mhm.
be, I don't know. That's been coming up a lot. I think I just had recorded another podcast with Danny Silverman. I don't know if you know Danny. He's
Mm.
super cool. I'll connect you if you haven't chatted with him before. The same thing came up, and it's going to drastically change everything again. Which is just, I think, when we start to wrap our heads around what's going on, like there's going to be another complete upheaval. If you're a digital marketer, man, your salary should be tripled. That's what I tell everybody. If you've got a great digital marketer, triple their salary so they don't leave. But that's
there's a great podcast I saw with Joe Marchese was talking about this in particular, and it was exactly what you said. The agents taking over and doing that for you. Is there a toll booth element, or how do the economics get worked out ultimately? If there isn't an opportunity if there are no ads, maybe there will always be ads, and we'll figure it out, and there'll be some kind of rev share or something through the chat bot. But I don't know. And the idea where you just say, like, pick the best one and just do it. How do you do that? I guess that's the interesting part. So I'm sure a lot of smart people working on it to try and figure out how that's all going to shake out. It definitely for once, I think it's a good time to be grounded in the real world, in the physical space, for our impressions and because it's definitely, there's going to be a lot of really interesting changes and upheaval in the digital space over the next couple of years, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, people are still going to the store. That's going to happen. How they shop online is going to be more drastically impacted. So, crazy. Well, Jack, this has been a blast. Like, thanks so much. So the website, really quick for everybody, is, where should they go?
Recess, RECESS .is, recess.is is our website. Or find us on LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out, and always here to be helpful, always interested in chatting with anybody who's interested to, chop it up about experiential and anything in that world.
Yeah. Well, awesome, my friend. Thanks so much for your time today. With that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Thanks, everybody, for listening in.